It's nowhere you want to be. It's here. The reunion of the people behind Forrest Gump because people wanted that? Question mark.
When I heard what the conceit was behind this film, I was like, oh, that could be an interesting experiment. And then I saw it.
It could.
It could, but it's not. Yes, Robert Zemeckis reunites with screenwriter Eric Roth and stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. Yikes, guys. You gotta subscribe because we will steer you in the right direction on these things. Award season, end of the year stuff can get a little confusing. What's a prestige film that's worth your time? What is not? We will help you.
You could spend the rest of the night here.
I could spend the rest of my life here.
Here is based on a graphic novel, and it is about what takes place in this house, particularly in this living room, over the course of many, many decades. And actually, they go back to this eons because they go back to this space and what was happening there, like at the dawn of time.
Right.
Like, so you get dinosaurs and the Ice Age and Native Americans and Ben Franklin's son. And so, they go back and forth between time and then into more of the modern history of the United States. And you have a family that has moved into this house that was built in 1900. Paul, Bettany, and Kelly Reilly are the parents. He is a World War II veteran. They have their family there. The son becomes Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks marries Robin Wright there. They have their baby there. But it's not chronological. And the way they jump around in time is through these little rectangles or squares. So the camera stays fixed the entire time. It does not move.
No.
And so you'll have the living room and maybe like a square will go around a Christmas tree in the background. And then a scene from the 1920s will fill in around it, or it will jump forward in time to the African-American family that lives there after Tom Hanks's family. And I thought that was a cool idea. But it jumps around so frequently between all these different characters and all these different stories. I haven't even scratched the surface of who all has lived in this house. Many, many people have lived in this house. But the writing is so banal. It is so like frantic and on the nose, and people keep commenting on the passage of time. Like Robin Wright in particular is saddled with some variation of, wow, time sure does fly, doesn't it? A million times you could set your watch to it. And then the thing with the camera being stuck in one place means that either the activity is far away and it's like emotionally distant, or they contrive to bring things up close to you, whether it's like a birthday cake, happy birthday, and then it's right there in front of you. Oh, look at the baby. Like it's corny. When Tom Hanks introduces Robin Wright to his dad, Paul Bettany, he's like, Dad, this is Margaret. And they're like right here, they're all occupying like this tiny little square of space. And so because nothing ever moves, like I think moments that are intended to be super poignant and meaningful are just like empty because the writing is terrible. The way it's framed does not allow us to in any way connect with these characters at moments that are supposed to be meaningful. Like a lot happens: birth, death, sex, life, joy, infidelity, everything in between.
Yeah, the script is thoroughly banal. Like these are not characters; these are concepts of characters. Yeah. And you're right. Like for all of the time span that's covered in this movie, boy, like really nothing mattered until and certainly not after the baby boom. So it's all about like immediate post World War II, 50s, 60s, 70s with these characters. And there are visionary filmmakers, I think, who could lock down the camera and really play with the frame and really use that as a storytelling tool. And Zemeckis, for all of his strengths, is not that guy. You know, he is much more interested in the toy box, as he always is, in terms of like, what technology can I use and how can we use this to be different, and what can I'm sure on every movie he invents something. You know, I've been calling his movies the Academy Technical Lunch. Yeah. You know, during the Oscars, there's always the technical lunch for the guy who invented a new lens or whatever. That's what Zemeckis does now. Like, he used to be able to marry the two things, like Death Becomes Her or the Back to the Future movies. Like, he is telling you a story and giving you characters and also reinventing the wheel of how movies get made. But now he's just interested in the wheel and he doesn't care about anything else. And so this movie is a bore. you are stuck in that position, and its better ideas feel borrowed from elsewhere. The dinosaur stuff, it's like that's what the tree of life is about.
Exactly.
They like where we sit now once trod triceratops or whatever. The aging and de-aging is just still not there.
Robin Wright in particular, she gets like the worst end of that.
Yeah, like they don't quite have the Polar Express dead eye, but there's a real waxiness going on. And so I just it would have been like maybe a cool 10-minute short, to sort of like pursue this idea. But as it is, because of the fixed angle, at first I thought, oh God, this is like watching a play. And then I thought, no, this is like watching the Disneyland Carousel of Progress. And if you've never been, it's at Disney World now. It's this GE sponsored ride where you sit and there's a rotating stage and you go from living room to living room over the course of the 20th century. And at each new living room, there's like better technology and new doodads and stuff. And I'm like, this is the fucking Carousel of Progress, this movie. And I couldn't wait for it to be over. Robin Wright's character keeps saying, can't we just move out of this house? And I was like, yes, please.
Please. Here's the door. I was thinking about the play comparison too. Like when you see a play that is filmed, or you see a piece of material that began life as a play, and we say it feels like a play on film. I mean, this is not that, because when you shoot a play, you have other camera angles.
Move the camera sometimes.
And that space gets used, those actors use that space in an organic way to tell their story. And this is also forced and contrived to make all these monumental life events happen in this one living room, along with the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and Jane Fonda's workout to mark the passage of time. But with a play, you have, the benefit of close-ups.
Sure.
And there are some moments here where I'm sure these actors are really acting. Paul Bettany in particular has all kinds of regrets, and it's a very emotional, wallowing performance. I'm sure he would have a lot to express to us if he weren't on a sofa bed way the hell back at the other end of the room.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with Zemeckis and Eric Roth is because it's about life and death and the passage of time, sad things happen. People have strokes, people have dementia, people drop dead in the middle of a party,
literally.
And you can tell some of those are supposed to be these sort of heartstring tugging moments, but it's but this is happening to a character that you've barely bothered to establish. It's this sketchy outline of a person, and oh no, now they have had a stroke. And so it's I'm not moved by that because I don't know who she was, And so it's kind of cheating, frankly. And this is a lot of effort into a movie that just doesn't register emotionally.
Yeah, and then it's incredibly on the nose. It is both too thin and broad in terms of depicting, Native Americans or African Americans, but also we get to COVID, and there's a character who sprays something, bless you, something and then tries to sniff it. And it's so clear that she can't spell it, but she says to us, I can't smell anything. We're like, no shit. You just acted that. You don't have to also tell us that. And so that kind of thing keeps happening over and over again too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and the argument about the Vietnam War is just oh, come on. I mean, it's again, I think if you took this premise and even the sort of technical limitations of this and put it in the hands of, I don't know, Steve
anybody.
McQueen.
Literally anybody.
I think they could have really run okay, these are it's like the I used to, when I taught a class, I would show them the 5 obstructions, which is this movie where Lars von Trier goes to this director and he has to keep remaking the guy's movie, but every time there's a new list of you can't do this, or the camera can't move, or it has to be shot entirely Zemeckis has these obstructions, and I think for a better director they would have yielded something really cool, but as it is this sort of lifeless diorama.
It says nothing about the passage of time or American history.
No,
that's meaningful or novel.
There is more meaningful and moving content about life and death and the inexorable passage of time in episode 7 of Agatha All Along than in this entire movie.
Yeah, I hated this. So I'm going to give it a Like a 1.5. I hated it, even though like clearly a lot of work went into it, into the production designing that room to make it different all the time, into the editing, into the technical effects. But I hated it.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even remember what I gave it on Metacritic. I want to say like a 3, but it was purely for just the bells and whistles and for the actors giving it their best shot. You know, no, Tom Hanks and Robin Wright and the whole company are not at fault here, but they've just been given nothing to play. And as Dave pointed out after he saw it, I would have happily just spent the entire movie with the horny furniture inventor and his wife.
Yes, and that guy did not even actually invent the thing that they have him inventing.
Oh, of course not.
That is fake. All right, don't see here, but if you do, let us know what you thought.